Hello, all. Welcome to the Legend of Gaming podcast. I'm Matt,
And you got Cliff?
and today we will be talking about card games. But first, before we hop into those card games, let's get into our Cliff Notes.
So, we have some nice Cliff Notes. We got two. Now, I know you were talking to me, you were wondering, in Club Penguin, there was this iceberg.
Oh,
This
yeah.
little island that you were wondering if it was able to be flipped over. And there was rumors about it that at the very end of the game that you could actually flip it. I'm here to tell you some good information.
Oh, my God.
You can definitely flip that over.
It was flipped?
Yes, it was absolutely flipped. And on the other side, they had this whole like dance party. You can shake your little tail as a penguin. It's a great time. So
See, that's how you do an Easter egg right.
yeah, it was good. It was
Legend
good.
turned into a legendary party.
And if you watch like clips of it, there was like plus like 100 people all drilling one side of the the iceberg trying to get it to flip. The moment it does, you can just see people their comments are just like, oh, it's possible. Oh man, like it's just like people were baffled and they just started dancing. It's a great time. Good thing.
I love that. So, Cliff Note number 1, flippable iceberg. Hell yeah. Love it.
And then 2, in Valorant, I was mentioning the types of classes there were. And I didn't have all the names down, to be honest with you. So I want to say them now. One of them is the Initiator. You can kind of pick up what that is, of course. The second one is Control, which is using that to blind people, kind of like dwindling what options people have. Then you have your Sentinel. They normally watch the back line. One person I like to play, he had like this really cool like cowboy hat, and he can set up like spy cameras around the corners. That was really cool.
Very cool.
Yes. And then the last one would be our Duelist. Of course, there are Attack, our Push, and that's pretty much it.
No, I love that. You got a little Cassidy Symmetra action.
Yeah.
With a cowboy with some spy robots. That's really cool. I
His name
actually
was-
didn't know that the roles were like that.
Yeah.
Very different.
And I just remember his name is Cypher. He kind of like,
Cypher.
he has like all white. He's like part robot, and he can even like, he has like some cool time like abilities and stuff like that. Really cool.
I think when you're trying to get into a new game, you have to have some character design that like pulls you in.
Yeah.
So I like that. But on top of it, like super cool that they like mixed something that you would think is not necessarily high techy as
Yes.
a cowboy, right? With like spy cam. So super, super cool.
For sure.
All right, well, I guess let's hop into it. Before we jump into the actual card games, I do want to give a little context. You know, a lot of the card games are based on real life card games.
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering's been around for a really long time. That came out in like 1993. You know, Pokemon itself came out in America in like 1998. Yu-Gi-Oh, a big place in my heart, came out in 2002. So whenever you look at the physical card games, it's varying. It comes over a span of like 10 years is where it really became popular.
Right.
When I think of TCG video games or card video games, the first one I got my hands on was Pokemon, the trading card game for Game Boy Color. Have you ever played it?
No, I haven't.
I mean,
Tell me about it.
Well, first thing, you've had to have heard of Pokemon, correct?
Of course.
Okay,
Of course.
Cool.
Yes.
I think a first, anecdote to Pokemon, I think that was one of the first fads or like things that came out that became super popular that it didn't matter the gender.
Very trendy.
Like,
Yeah.
it didn't matter who you were, it didn't matter where you were from. You liked Pokemon in some facet, and your favorite Pokemon could vary so much. Of those original 150 or however many, I think it was 151, everyone you talked to had a different favorite Pokemon. So, I think the first appeal to the trading card game just being handheld on my Game Boy Color was, hey, I can go and I can search for my favorite Pokemon that I watch on TV, my favorite Pokemon that I already have the cards for, and now I can interact with them in the first kind of facet that I've ever been able to. So that was appealing.
Yes.
Now, I love that you're like, hey, I don't know how to play Pokemon. Neither did I. Neither did I. And that's why this game is super valuable, because you don't have to understand the mechanics of energies or how to evolve the Pokemon. It really walks you through that step by step. So it's kind of like the first training wheels for me to understand how to play the card game that I already owned in real life and didn't have instructions to.
That's nice, because it kind of takes away the, like, a touch of the math to it, a touch of the extra steps. And I can tell you, just like from everything I've seen, I've always had, like, sometimes I've had like some Pokemon cards, but I've never had the moment where I'm like, oh, okay, like let's play a match or something of that sort.
See, I always wanted to play the match, but had no access at that time in like 1999 when I was playing to the internet or to a trading card game booklet that would teach me, right? Yeah. So the only way we could play was with the rules that we made ourselves.
Okay, I see what you mean.
2 years later, you know, whenever I got the trading card game through my Game Boy Color, I was actually able to sit down and understand a little bit of like, okay, X amount of energies allows me to do this ability. This ability allows me to do this amount of damage to this character. Okay. And it kind of gave you a layout. I will tell you what was so attractive for the Game Boy Color version is like I didn't have to have more money to open up decks. You know, that addictiveness of popping packs.
Yeah.
I love it. That's 50%, I think, what brings people in. It's kind of like the gambling function of it. But you didn't need to put in real money. The real money you put in was to invest in the game.
It was the time.
At that point, the money you're paying, yes, is your time. And I think that's where, as a kid, with all the time in the world, I really appreciated being able to sit down, build a deck with my favorite Pokemon. Also, it obligated me to find other Pokemon further into the game that were better. So guess what? Right. I started having new favorites. So it really was a good mixture of giving you something you're familiar with, but really showing you the guidelines to get you interested outside, which from a money-making standpoint, they're geniuses. They're like, ha, 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 we'll give you access to free decks of cards. And then behind the scenes, really what you're doing is you're now realizing you want these other cards that you don't own that you now have to go out and buy in real life.
It's a touch of a preview. It's a preview of the card, and you're like, oh man, this is a cool card. Yeah. Or like, oh, this is my favorite. Now I need to get it.
And attachment, right? You talked about the NBA 2K games and being attached to people that like they're your hero. These are not real things, right? Pikachu's not a real thing you can go see in a zoo or see in real life, but I can go physically get the card. Now I can go grab a plushie. I can, you know, play with him and level him up and have hours of time and X amount of games. But like, I think it really started from the trading card game, right? Where I was like, okay, I have the Pikachu card. I love the artwork. And again, I think that's something that's recurring through all of these games, right? Like the artwork is what attracts you to it.
It is. It's the way that they spend the time to make something so visually appealing to the point where, you know, you'll want to like take your own cat and like color them like Pikachu.
Absolutely.
So
I love that you bring that up. So many people buy anniversary cards or wedding cards or Pokemon cards made after their animals.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So I really love that you highlight that, because and I think that's where when you get your hands on a game like this, that it gives you access to something as a consumer you really look forward to. I wanted to play with all these Pokemon.
Yeah.
But really, again, having more knowledge, wanting to dive deeper, then, you know, and not including the Pokemon games themselves where you can actually duel with them in a 2D world, 3D, whichever game you're playing, it's more depth. But for card people like us, I really enjoy that I can just play the game itself digitally. I can really collect all of them. There is a goal at the end of it, right? There is the final four. Right. There are gym leaders. So it's a very similar layout, but the way you play it, super different. So I would tell you, obviously, if you are interested in Pokemon, but you haven't played the trading card game at all, if you have a Game Boy Color,
it's worth it.
I'm telling you, pick that bad boy up. It's still good. It is still good to this day.
Dust it off. I like that a lot. I think the one thing I definitely want to add on to it is the collection of it is something that really brings you to a point of, okay, like I'm getting to this point or I'm getting to that point and I have all these different cards. I know everyone knows Ash, of course. He wants to collect them all. And I know that was such a pitch at the beginning that it kind of makes you want to be like Ash. You want to have that collection to yourself. So really cool that you have your own ability to go through that with time instead of actually like physically going there and us being younger asking our mom and dad, hey, I just need another like $5 because I need to get another pack. So
Yeah.
really cool.
Absolutely. And not to be that person, but nowadays there's adults fighting over them, right?
Oh yeah.
So say you even have the $5, good luck getting the pack without having a terrible time.
Yeah.
I will say, right before we started this podcast, I dropped a binder full of cards on the floor. And it's just funny because I dropped probably about 1,000 cards. And Cliff and I are like trying to pick these cards
It definitely
up,
was.
trying not to spill them all over. I think another layer that is just an extra bonus is the actual preservation of your cards too. Whenever
Yes.
you're playing on these TCG, even the new one that came out, the Pokemon Mobile, where you collect the trading cards, you know, what makes that attractive is, yes, there's rarity. Yes, you get to pop packs. Yes, you can play with them, but you really can't damage it. You
Right.
can't lose the cards. You can't,
Right.
you can't do something frivolous that's like, you know, gonna ruin them. They get bent, they get water on them, they sit out in the sun too long.
Digital
Adults,
safety.
100%.
Yeah.
And like these parents that are like trying to protect their kids, it's a great way for kids to have responsibility in a safe zone, right? Like the responsibility is like, don't trade a terrible Pokemon card for a terrible Pokemon card with a friend, right? You can still
Right.
do that. That's just being stupid. But, you know, the responsibility later of, you know, the value of these cards, now I need to preserve them. I think it really started here.
Yeah.
You know, the love for collecting started here. The understanding of the game a little bit deeper really started here. And then I think just good habits started here. So, you know, whenever I look at the Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy Color, I think it checks a lot of boxes for why it was good at its time.
Okay.
But I can tell you it still holds up. Like if you played it tomorrow, you'd still enjoy it.
That's good. A lot of games, depending on how they're made, don't attest to the time. And for that to be one, that's really good. And I just want to say, earlier when the cards dropped, I just want to let you know that moment when you're trying to make a situation better, but you're making it worse. I tried to pick up the cards and I saw some fall and I was like, nope, I'm putting my hands away.
It is a terrible binder. It's not your fault. I dropped about 30 and you didn't see, and I just slammed them in the box because no, like it's just a cheap binder. But again, this is also where you can't always put all your value in material things, right? Like truly, if I want all those to be protected, I'd have to go pay to have them all put in protectors, and it's like an absurd amount.
But they, in their own perspective, they are protected.
Yeah,
They
sure.
are.
But guess what? You could just get a trading card game digital version and you're good. I think that's where a good middle ground would be, maybe being able to buy packs and scan your cards and add them to.
That's true. Okay.
Have you ever collected any trading cards?
Right now, I want to say the closest thing I have to trading cards that I still have is probably my Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get to Magic the Gathering, because that actually came out prior to Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh!
Which still dumbfounds me.
I mean, hey,
I just like...
Magic the Gathering was made by adults for adults.
That's true.
And, you know, I think that a lot of people can be like, well, I was a teenager. I was 13 or I was 10 whenever I started playing. Absolutely. There's lots of things that we pick up prior, but I can tell you a lot of the progenitors of these series were people who did not have a creative outlet.
Gotcha.
Before we get to Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Did you ever play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or watch Yu-Gi-Oh?
I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! For a brief time, and that was cut off very quickly with some parental discretion.
They
That's
saw the
probably best way I
demoniacs.
can
They were
say
like,
it.
get this demon
What
out
is
of here.
this? So that didn't stick with me long, but the only thing that I really remember, because it was so popular, was of course like the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and then we were talking about it a little bit earlier. It was like the guy that's like kind of golden, and he has like 5 different pieces to himself. Like those are like the
Exodia.
biggest thing. Exodia, yeah. And I think the last thing, which is it's all the like meme kind of like popular stuff. It's like, oh, you activated my trap card. So
Have you ever seen the Pot of Greed meme?
no, I haven't.
Activate Pot of Greed. Draw one card from your deck. He's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You know what? Clip note. I'll show you after.
Yes, I need to see it.
So let me give you a quick parallel. It's similar to Pokemon in the sense that you collect cards.
Okay.
And, Pokemon, you collect cards to build a deck. Now, Pokemon have weaknesses to elements. What's different about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is there are things called trap cards
Yeah.
that you can use to change the battlefield. You can use it to change how the cards interact. There's spell cards, and spell cards can power you up or change how you interact with your monsters. So it's very similar in the sense of you have great monsters that you become attached to and you kind of fall in love with. They are not all cutesy. They are not little, what is it called? Anthropomorphic little animals that speak like a Meowth.
Like when I look at like the artwork, I think a little bit like Gothic, just a little bit like a touch of Gothic.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I don't see it as even though, Pokemon has such a like bright, vibrant kind of look to it, it's definitely the opposite side of that.
I love that you bring that up. I would say the style is more muted for sure.
Yeah.
And whenever you look at it, it's more fantasy driven than, driven for, I wouldn't say Pokemon's for children because it's so universal.
Yes.
But it's so happy and joyous. This has a little bit more grim grime.
A little gritty. Yeah, a little grittiness.
I would agree. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel came out a little bit after the Pokemon trading card game.
Okay.
Because that was for Game Boy Color. This Yu-Gi-Oh! Game came out for Game Boy Advance. All so, right. As I was getting a little bit older, my interests were changing. Pokemon was slowing down a little bit. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards became really popular at school. And guess what trap I fell into? No pun intended for the trap cards. I just didn't know how to play the game.
And that's fine.
It's fine until you're trying to take cards at school and you're losing duels, right? I was physically losing cards.
Wagering, once you're wagering, that's a little different story.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel was definitely one of those games where it laid it out really simply. Okay. Had a little bit of that audio, Maddie loves a nice song, a good beat, so it had that good intro song. But more importantly, it really was simple to figure out layers. Like, how do I play? What's the main phase?
Yeah.
How does that main phase work? What's phase 2? What do we go through? When do I play a trap card? How does it work?
Right.
You really simply get put into that. So I think, again, being like 11 years old, I think it was the training wheels for me to be like, okay. And I will tell you, cards got banned at school super quick.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. I can imagine that one kid showing up with that rare card. And every time he comes up, no one wants to duel him. No one wants to play with him because they know the moment he casts that card, that's it.
Do you want the story of how I got banned?
I do want the story.
Okay.
Yeah, I want the story.
I'll keep out last names and I'll make it quick. Really long story short, I went to a little school in the middle of nowhere. 75 kids between kindergarten and 8th grade, the whole school. Okay. So the same 15 kids were in 2 grades together, like 5th and 6th. Mm-hmm. So 5th and 6th grade, this is when we were playing, heavy into it. And a kid in 3rd grade had the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and I wanted that card. So I had a card called Labyrinth Wall, and it has 0 attack, 3,000 defense.
Right.
And I have a card that would swap your attack and your defense. And then I shuffled my deck like a little magician before we played, and I may have put those cards like 5 or 6 down. So I just destroyed his hit points so quick, and I took the card.
Oh,
I ended up losing the card. Well, karma. I won the card. Throughout the day, we were all dueling. I ended up losing the card to another kid.
Oh man!
The next day, the child who lost the card, Macklin, his dad came into school, grabbed the kid who had the card by the shirt, and was like, "Give my kid back the card." And it ended up changing the rules to where parents couldn't come in without signing into school. So that led to a tragedy. Not a tragedy. It led to a hilarious story because I'm going to be honest. We were dying laughing.
That's hilarious.
But, trading card games get real serious.
Matt, that could have been you.
I
That could have
mean,
been you being
dodged a
held up by
bullet.
the.
Dodged a bullet. Bad karma, good karma. Bad karma, good
Yeah.
karma. You know. But and all jokes aside, I think again, this is where when you have games like this, it makes it easier. At the end of the day, you're not actually losing physical money. No parent went and bought you the card. They bought you the game. You're not losing the game. You're just losing time that you invested. And I think the time invested into that Blue Eyes White Dragon, that Red Eyes Black Dragon, the tiny little Toon Dragon that turns into Thousand Dragon, any of these cards that you fall in love with the art, or you fall in love with the character, or you fall in love with the storyline on TV, it makes it more tangible because you don't have to worry about losing it at school and having your dad come and have to threaten someone. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
You could just have two of them and then trade one off, and then it's a win-win. You're getting a card probably from someone else, rather than we're all kind of in that pot in real life trying to pull this card that, you know, it's very sought after.
And I like the idea that it's a game where you're being guided through. So just like how you mentioned with the training wheels, I think there's a lot of card games that I wish that I kind of had like a guidance. Like I know Magic the Gathering, it's a really like it's not too hard of a concept to understand, but at the time that I was playing, it definitely was a big learning curve for me.
Can you give me the basics?
So the basics of Magic the Gathering, to kind of jump into, you have it where you have mana and your cards will you can cast a card with the right amount of mana. So let's say you have just a simple like soldier. In order to cast it, it costs one like blue mana, which would be water. You need one mana on the field. So while you're playing, you should be able to cast, if I remember correctly, one mana and one card each turn. And as you build up through the game, that mana stays on the field unless they have some crazy card that destroys mana.
Mana Destroyer.
I don't believe there's a card out there that does that, but Magic the Gathering has over 9,000 cards, so I really don't doubt it. But as you have mana on the field, anytime you use it, you turn it to the right. This indicates that you've used a card. If you attack with a card, you turn it to the right. And that's your physical way of showing, hey, I just used this card to do X, Y, and Z. Now, with Magic, to kind of give you an idea, I know that you played it a little bit, right?
I'm gonna be honest. No, my family is deep into Magic the Gathering. Yeah.
Okay.
But I just haven't had the opportunity. I've played like Baldur's Gate. I've played a lot of these games that are D&D focused, right? That have similar aspects.
Yeah.
I've never really got to jump into Magic at all.
Okay. So this is where I think the fun really comes into it. There's 5 different types of like mana and like energy. So like the first one is like white, potentially like really good like teamwork. It's very balanced. And it's a very defensive color. And then you have like, let's say blue, it's more strategic. You can like get like almost like if you wanted to put trap cards into a section, you could possibly put it in blue. I know there's also black. Now they'll do the power, just like they'll do whatever they can to get the win. Like they'll have it where it'll take like health points from you. It will destroy your own characters just to cast something. So it's very like, it's partially like
almost like a
self-destructive.
necromancer. It's like the like black magic, the dark side. I like that.
And but it packs a punch. It definitely packs a punch. They also have like red, which is basically flames. It's really fast, really quick hits. Normally the cards that you're casting don't cost that much mana, so that's where you get like, you can really play what's called like an early game. And I know we haven't mentioned that yet, but that's definitely something to mention. There's definitely like ways you can build your card decks depending on what game you're playing, but you can have it where you build an early game set, or you can build mid or late game set. And I can tell you, like, I've had a deck where it was definitely like late game. But before I go into that, let me tell you the last one. The last one is a green, which is potentially like, how do I describe it? It's a little bit more on the healing and protecting side. So it kind of goes in tandem with white. So you have like all these different ways that you can kind of like play off of your decks, right? You can have it where your deck has all 5 colors if you want to. You can have it where it's just a black deck. You can have it where it's just a red deck.
Are any of the decks more difficult?
No, I think it's just how you would like to play. Like my final deck when I was playing was white, black, and green. So the green gave me a lot of defense and like early like defense. The white gave me protection. The black gave me offense, just crazy offense. So I would set up certain things where it's like, okay, like there was like this one card, it was a really nice card. It was like a giant tortoise, and he's like the size of like a mountain, and he's just like unmovable. Like you just cannot destroy him. It's really hard to destroy him. And as the turns go on, I think he was getting like a certain type of buff that just made it worse. I would just like stack him there. I would put in like defense around him, and then I have like things just locked down. It's really hard to like push on me. So that was a really fun deck, but I've seen people make crazy things.
I mean, the one note that I remember from my family is I remember going with my uncle to a little tournament he played in.
Yeah.
And his deck did no damage, but couldn't die.
Okay. I love that.
And what he would do is he would just play, and he'd keep getting life points or HP or whatever. The
life points. You're spot on.
People just forfeit because they're like, oh, this is just going to go on
He's
forever.
hitting 100. So, and to kind of give for reference, you start off with 20 life points. The like white deck can actually give you health, and so can I believe the green deck as well. So you can just start stacking up your health if you want to, which is great. There's also, and I'm glad that you mentioned that too. In the black deck, there are cards that just take away from your life points. If your life points hit 0, then you lose. So if you have cards where you're giving yourself health and then you use your black cards as like offense, then you're kind of playing back and forth with your health for sure, which is a little dicey depending on the situation, but you're using that as another arsenal. So that's where my deck I was definitely having a lot of fun with. I think playing Magic the Gathering is definitely a really fun game to start with. It's a really big game, and there's a few different ways you can play it. So there's standard, there's considered commander, and what this is really, since there's so many cards, you could be playing the latest card set, or you can be playing in a set where it's like, okay, I can have cards come like any type of set. I think that's the one tie-in that they have, which is really cool.
So when we talk about these first 3 just IPs that we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh have a lot less of a selection of monsters and cards to pick from, truly.
Okay.
There's a lot, and I'll do air quotes, right? Because you couldn't name every Pokemon, you couldn't name every Yu-Gi-Oh card. But when we look at Magic the Gathering, every single year, there are 5 to 7 decks released. And that's where I love that you bring up different decks, because you're absolutely correct. Every single year, there is a commander deck. Every single year, if you want to jump in right now, you want to go play online, you want to play the mobile game, you want to play physical, if you want to jump in any of these mediums, you can go get a commander deck.
Yeah.
I told you at the beginning I didn't play Magic the Gathering, right?
Right.
There was a Fallout deck last year, and I was on the fence. I was at the card shop buying some Pokemon cards. I was like, I could get into Magic the Gathering. I went through a big stint with Warhammer, where I was like, oh my god, I love 40k. There's a Warhammer deck through Magic the Gathering. So I think it's really just like, what do you want from the series? Are you looking to play one of these 5 routes? Pick these colors. Go white, you can be a health person. Go green, and you can use health, and you can, supply yourself up, right? But if you're not really interested in the actual gameplay, here, why don't we just find a show that you like? Oh, you like Doctor Who? There's a Doctor Who one. Right. Oh, you like Lord of the Rings? Here, wait till that deck comes out. And I think that's where you really have an advantage.
Yeah.
In the sense of you attract a lot of people. I think the disadvantage is if you're taking it serious in your deck building, the fluctuation of cards really can just be so much every year that the meta is just indefinitely changing.
Yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint what is the only way to win because there's just too many options. There's a lot of options. But I think that's also where you can find the fun in like when you're playing standard, because like standard is just the latest card deck, and that's where it's like, okay, like you'll know all the cards that the other person could possibly have. It's a whole lot smaller than it being like the whole set of all the cards that's ever come out. And I think that's the piece that you need when you're like, okay, like I want to start playing. I would recommend, if you're playing this for the first time, to go standard. That's the right way to go. Because if you go into commander, it's going to be a lot. You're going to see cards that you'll see once, probably never see again. There's just that many cards. But I think that you'll definitely find a lot of fun in standard, because you'll see different like ways people are using that set of like skills that are just in that deck, and you'll get new ideas from it, and you can incorporate some of their ideas, or you can change it up. You have the option for it, which is great. So yeah,
I love that. Is there anything that we should look out for when jumping into Magic the Gathering, other than the commander decks, right? Jumping in, you're getting cards that are only going to be here for one season.
Yeah.
Is there any pitfalls that people fall into where maybe you're just overbuying? Should you stick to one deck till you understand how to play, or should you supplement as each iteration comes out and maybe add in a few more cards?
I think that's a really good question. I would personally look for when the next like deck is probably dropping, just so you have a full extent with that time. So if you're like, okay, I'm thinking about getting into Magic the Gathering, let me do it the moment the next standard drops. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Secondly, don't overbuild your deck. That's probably the biggest thing. I remember when I started playing, I'm like, oh, I need this card in my deck. I need that card in my deck. I need that one. I need that one. And then I have this wad of cards that, you think that you have a good combination of things, but nothing's connecting.
You've really built something hyper specific that you need this card for this to be good. And this, okay.
So I think that, like, from my personal experience, I know that when I first started, my deck was just getting bigger and bigger. I was like, oh, this card does what? Oh, this card does, oh man, I gotta have this. I gotta have this. And I think you can fall into overbuilding your deck when it really comes down to the less card you have. Sometimes that's better. Sometimes you're like, oh, I can make this one combo, and that one combo, these three, and that's all I need. Sometimes that's all you need. So I think that's the two things I would definitely start off with. Like, look into seeing, hey, when is the next set of like standard dropping? Get some advice from some people, see where that might be, and then go ahead and jump in. See what you kind of like, look at the cards for that season, and try to just build it small, and then build a little bit more, and then be set from there.
Okay. Anything else that we should add to Magic the Gathering before we go?
This is kind of tied into all card games, and you can kind of see, I got it pulled up over here. The full art. I know we were talking about a little bit in Pokemon. These are the art like cards that I'm showing you for the mana. So these are just the mana cards.
Yeah, they're pretty phenomenal.
They're stunning, like absolutely stunning.
When you compare this to a Pokemon Energy card, it's kind of laughable. I think this is where Pokemon's come out now with full art cards.
Yes.
Right? And I think maybe they were trying to take a little page out of Magic the Gathering's book, because the Meteor one is crazy.
The Meteor is crazy. To kind of picture it, it's almost as if you're looking down on a planet that looks like Earth, but it's mostly like a green lush area, and there's just meteors just raining towards it. And this is giving you it's called Mountain Forest. And if you notice, I want to point this out really quick. This is actually a nice thing about Magic, is that you see how it's like a little bit red on one side,
I do see that, like
and then it's green. You could use this for either one.
I understand.
Yeah. So if you're like, okay, I'm building a red and green deck, this mana right here I can use for either
side of that.
Yeah. So that's where you can really have some fun. And you can see that there's a few more that have like a little bit of a blend. So it's definitely pushed to, hey, don't just try one color, have it where you have multiple colors too. So make some cool things.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Hey, I mean, I think whenever you look at each of these games, they have something that pulls you in,
Yeah.
right? And Magic the Gathering has a really deep history. Having this many decks coming out every year, you have a lot of pool to pull from for cards or decks. So, like, I just love it. I will say the next one I'm looking at is Marvel Snap.
Okay, tell me about it.
To be really honest, I've never played it. It's just one of those. I'm a big Marvel person. I play a lot of Marvel video games on PlayStation, right?
For sure.
Like, you and I, we talked about Spider-Man a million times. I absolutely love it. I heard there's a Wolverine game coming out. I would love to see this. I
can't wait to see it because he's terrifying us on Rivals as
Rivals?
we speak, and he's the only person to ban right now. He's the perfect person to ban.
But this is the point, right? Like, these are all these
Yeah.
all these different areas we can see it. I'm looking behind you and I can see Wolverine on the wall, and I've got a Wolverine comic, and there's like all of this deep lore. Snap is just another intro where it's like, hey, we have this card game.
Okay.
We've got a different mechanic. I'm going to have to obviously go and play the game itself, but what attracts me is the characters themselves. I have Deadpool toys. I've got Wolverine toys. I can't wait for Deadpool to be on Rivals. But whenever you look at these characters, right, that's what attracts you to it. I want to build a deck with a bunch of goofy people.
Yeah.
I want to build a deck and play a free-to-play game where you can still get cool cards through seasonal events. Because I am the addictive guy. I get a little too into it. I had to delete Fortnite for a little bit. Too many good skins. I'm about to be buying everything, right?
Yeah.
Marvel Snap, I think, is a good, healthy medium where you have lots of options. Mm-hmm. You can play villains, you can play good guys, you can intermix the teams, or your deck. I'm going to call it a team because you are playing against other people, but you can really intertwine your deck, however you want, and it's not really going to affect like your win rate. I think a lot of people play it for 50% the collection part, 50% because you want to win. You want to stomp people out and get those collector cards from winning in tournaments, or get that special edition card because you're the top 200 or whatever it is.
Right.
I was looking at some of the win rates on the teams, and like a lot of the above 60% win rate teams are just random characters put together. One of the most winning teams has Deadpool, Nico, X-23, Carnage, Hulkbuster, Wolverine, Death, Noel, Zola. Like, what do you do? Deathlock, Venom, Killmonger, and it's just kind of crazy because when you look at the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe, you look at the comic books, you look at maybe Spider-Man the game, they all bring different characters of different popularities in. When you look at Marvel universe and you look at what the MCU has, those are not necessarily characters that sold well in comics.
It's not. But how popular and how well it's doing, they're getting almost like their second introduction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to see it.
That's where I can appreciate this card game, because it's an intermediate area where people who, I really like MCU and I ride the bus every day and I want to play a new card game, Snap fills that, right? You can jump in with a character, you can then build a deck around it. You're going to learn about new characters, and then maybe I'll go buy a comic, maybe I'll look it up online, maybe I'll watch a YouTube video about it. I think Snap fits an interesting spot right now because of where Marvel's at, where I trust that mobile game and Marvel Rivals more than I trust a MCU show from Disney to entertain me.
Okay.
I trust it more to be actually lore accurate and engaging than these shows have been. So I can gush over Pokemon. I played it for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
I can really get into Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I played it for all of these years. Magic the Gathering has so many decks of things I've known for so long. I haven't played Snap, but I can tell you the moment that I see the ads, I'm like, I could play it. And the only thing holding me back is limiting time.
Right.
The only thing holding me back is I have low restraints on keeping myself back from things that I love. And I see it as a game that actually is very playable. And, you know, again, if you're going through and you're just looking at any of these decks, I've never heard of Hazmat. I've never heard of Wono or Wano. And whenever I see this, I'm like, you know, actually, maybe after I'm done, I'll look these characters up. Majik, I didn't know about her till Marvel Rivals, and she's cut me with a sword and making me miserable.
I didn't know her either, to be honest with you.
And I thought it was Magic, and apparently it's Majik. I got corrected.
Everyone still says Magic.
I mean, I got corrected by someone. They're like, actually. I said, I can't hear anything over those cheeks.
I love that. I can just hear them pushing up their glasses while they said that.
Yeah, Emma Frost came out, and I said, I'm a tank now. My friends were like, I know what kind of man you are. I said, no, guys, seriously, I just want to tank for the team.
He's an Emma main now.
What's that sound? Get out of here, guys. I'll leave it there. Snap, really, I just think that if you're into card games, you don't have a card game now, you're not looking to, you know, jump into Magic. You're not trying to have years and years of depth. You're not trying to get into Pokemon because, you know, that's for kids. That's for, you know, little 10-year-olds. You're not into Yu-Gi-Oh because I feel Yu-Gi-Oh has a very loyal following, but I don't think there's a lot of new people coming to it.
Yeah.
I think Snap fits a really particular area there. I think a lot of people see Marvel as something for adults and kids. I think it's really broken those chains of like, you know, this is just kids stuff. Yeah. And I think people who are interested in card games, this is that easy one to get into. It's free. You don't have to, you know, necessarily drop money right off the bat. If you have money, it will help you off, but it won't let you pay to win, which I can appreciate. I think it has a very interesting place that it holds.
No, that's nice because since it's something where everyone knows the heroes and there's heroes you don't know, it's still inviting. Because I know I can see Spider-Man. I know I can see all these characters I've fallen in love with, and to just have it in this field, I think it's worth taking the time and checking it out.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Laufey, never heard of him. Absorbing Man, I've heard of Absorbing Man, but I don't know anything about him. Cassandra Nova, don't know who that is.
I've heard of her.
See, but like I love this. I'm like, I know that I can go in here. Zabu, I can look up these characters. I can look up this card, and you know, tell me a little bit about him, and maybe I'll go look up a comic. So, I think it's a good plan to have an IP that's so strong that you can really just drop. Dragon Ball Z's done it. I've not played the Dragon Ball Z game, but I know there's a card game that has every character in it.
Oh, really?
Same as One Piece. There's 1 billion cards. Why? Because there's 1,000 characters in One Piece, and there's a card for each of them, which is crazy.
Which I can see. And to kind of like just say a note on it, I think having such a big area of like different characters that everyone knows and loves, and then making a card game into it, I think it's a very nice like addition that they do.
I mean, I totally agree. I think, you know, I've told you I'm addicted to World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I am deeply addicted. I have been for years, and it's coming back hard. And I think that Hearthstone is one of those games that fits that area.
Right.
You know, it knows, hey, I've got Warcraft, I've got World of Warcraft, I have all of these other games that have characters that people have either played with before or they know. And now I'm going to give them a deck to play with. But B, after the deck, I'm going to give them things to learn. You're going to go down, you're going to learn about Murlocs, and you're going to learn about these goofy characters, and you're going to learn about, you know, how eating is going to help your characters because you can, you know, maybe make your character stronger or buff somebody for a turn. You know what a paladin is. Yeah, you know what a demon hunter is. You know what a hunter is. You can build your deck around that also. You don't have to build it around characters you like. You can build around an archetype that you like.
Okay.
You get me?
Yeah, I do. Because then you're building it just by the type versus like a specific person.
Well, think about it. Like Pokemon. I like fire Pokemon. If I know you use water Pokemon, I might be in a little pickle, and now all of a sudden I'm really not interested in this deck, and there's not really a way for me to circumvent fire being weak to water. You get me?
Yeah.
Hearthstone could allow me to put out monsters that are really weak, and then maybe I have a card or a spell that takes health points from you if you attack a character that's weaker than you. So most card games, you're like, oh, my guy's stronger, I'm gonna crush this guy. But maybe I have a deck built around buffing my character, so if you're stronger, I take your health points. Again, it's a layer of complexity.
Yeah.
I think when you look at Hearthstone, you look at, the types of decks that people build. There's paladin decks that gain health and get more damage as you damage them. So it's kind of like, hey, you're hurting me, and if you don't kill me, I'm gonna mess you up.
It'll be a problem.
There's Rush Warrior decks where guess what? The moment that we start, I'm just smashing your health. Before you can even put cards down, I'm gonna take out your one card and I'm gonna have a bunch of cards I can rush with.
Okay.
There's some no minion decks. You're playing against someone and they're just kind of leaving themselves wide open. You're like, what's going on? But maybe they have magic spells, so if you take direct health from them, they damage you back. So again, it's adding all of these complexities that I think outside of the art. We just talked about art for so many of these. Magic the Gathering, dope art. It has such amazing art for each different style. And some of them are grim and dark. Some of them are fun and poppy. Some of them are modern and rustic. It just depends on the genre, right? If it's Fallout, it's Fallout based. Yeah. If it's Doctor Who, it's Doctor Who based. Also, if it's Lord of the Rings, it's got grim monsters along with the Shire and these like beautiful landscapes for mana cards. So I think that those are big bonuses to a lot of these other games that Hearthstone does not have. Their card art is not crazy. It looks like a card from inside of World of Warcraft, but that's what they're going for. Yeah. They're going for the familiarity of, oh, you know that paladin that you play with in the game and you've played 3,000 hours with? Oh, well, you're actually playing a paladin deck that paladin plays within the game. And it gives you a little bit of like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm playing with the cards. And then, as you rise through the ranks, getting better, maybe you're changing that deck up a little bit, and it's giving you a different insight or a different perspective on your character, as well as a different appreciation for the world. Because Hearthstone is not the World of Warcraft. It's a card game, but it's a card game specifically using elements from that, whether it's the landscape. Swampy monsters are going to have an advantage in a more wet arena.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's cool. I think that's a really cool aspect.
And I like how, to kind of bring back how you mentioned, even though someone has, a lot of health, you could potentially make it where if someone has less health and you're attacking someone with less health, it doesn't work out for them. And I think that takes away the ability of, just because I have more health, clearly I have the upper hand. No, not at all. It really doesn't matter what type of set you have. There is a type of counter for it. So I think that's really cool.
I think a lot of card games fall into that issue too. Man, I know that dude has 3 cards that are just monsters in comparison to mine. It kind of deters you for that whole game because you're like, I know at some point it's just going to pull that out and kill me.
Yeah.
This gives you those complexities and access to simple cards that with really good deck building, a little bit of understanding how to play off each other, you're not looking for that one monster card, and you're really setting the groundwork for someone to ruin themselves. And that's more satisfying. That's more satisfying than outright beating them. Because a lot of times someone can come in and guess what? They just had more money or better luck, and they have better cards. But you're seasoned, you've been here, you've done that. I know how to play this out, and with a little bit of luck, but thank God the skill that you've put in and the time you put into that deck, if I have these 3, I know that his strongest card has nothing against me. And I think that that's so attractive because it allows you variety. Yeah. You know what's going to kill you in a card game? The moment that you think you've got every card that you need, you don't need to collect anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
What's the point? What's the point at that point? If I have a deck that always wins and I have no cards I'm seeking after, I think that's kind of the point where it's like, well, congratulations, here's your badge. You've beat the game.
Yeah, and you walk on off, that's it.
No card game wants that. And I think that's where Hearthstone's gimmick that keeps you coming back, yeah, sure, can be new introductions of, decks. I don't think that's its strong suit. I think its strong suit is the familiarity to other aspects of that world that you play. Again, me feeling like I am playing with cards or cards similar to my Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
I run in, I stay in an inn every time I get off World of Warcraft, and there are Hearthstone little cards on the tables. Every time I get in Hearthstone, I want to act like that's the deck that my guy sits out. And I think that's cool.
I mean, it's a type of game where you have the ability to just counter anything. And just like how you're mentioning, if you went through the lens of collecting everything and all of a sudden the game doesn't have a challenge to itself, I mean, it gets boring. It bores you out and you're like, you know what? Like, there's nothing that counters me. There's nothing that stops me. So having that weakness to yourself, having that, oh, I can be countered, even though this looks like it's a strong card, I think that's very important. And for you to tell me that that game is doing that, I can see why it was so popular.
I think Hearthstone has passed its time of super popularity.
Yeah.
Definitely think it's still a strong game if you're looking for something to get into. Again, and to walk you through it, I think Hearthstone has a lot of pros that a lot of these other games we've talked about have.
Yeah.
I'd say the con is, again, not having crazy artwork on the cards.
I can see that.
Now, I will tell you, there's a transition here, because the reality is a lot of these games we've talked about are individual card games. It's a card game that you download and you play. Hearthstone, I download Hearthstone and play it.
Right.
That Pokemon trading card game, I physically get a cartridge and I put it in. We've not covered a few games that are card games inside of games.
That is true. And I know I have one. I got a pretty solid one.
Tell me about it. I'm looking for a solid one.
It's called Gwent.
Ooh.
And I know I was giving you like a little bit of a preview of it. And I really fell in love with Gwent when I was playing The Witcher 3. So while you're playing the game, there is this card game that exists within this game. And it's not just like a small mini game. It's something where there are so many quests of you playing Gwent. Like I can't even like stress how many like things you can actually do like playing with Gwent inside that game. So just to give a background of it, they have it where you start off with just a few cards, you get an introductory to it, and then you find out that almost every single city, small town, there is like almost like a master there. Almost think of like Pokemon with like a gym like a master, kind of that same sense. And you need to go around and you're trying to collect all these cards for this mission called Card Collector. That's one. The second one is there is a brothel. Yes, I did say brothel.
I'm in.
And you go there and they're actually doing a tournament. And depending on how far you get in the tournament is how the storyline goes out, because while the story's going on, there's like a murder mystery kind of happening in the background. Really cool concept. But just to kind of give you a background of like what you experience while you're playing this game in the game of The Witcher, within the game, what you're doing is this. You have 3 lanes on your side, 3 lanes on the other side for the enemy. And the first lane is like your melee, second lane is like your archers, third lane is your catapults. Your goal is this. You have 2 rounds that you need to win. In these rounds, you need to have the highest points. The cards that you're putting down will have a, let's say, attack point of 5. So you have 5 points. You put down a card that has 1 attack point. You have 1. That simple concept. There are 4 different classes. There's your monsters. You have different ones from like a very known well city, a different city, and then you also have like your known character heroes. These are like Geralt himself that you're playing in Witcher. And as you're playing this game, your goal is really to see if you can outwit the other character to either use all of their cards in like the first round or second round, and then have it where you win 3 rounds in total. So potentially you need to win 3 rounds. Whoever gets that third one gets the win.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, it reminds me of 2 things. It reminds me of Queen's Blood from Final Fantasy, and it reminds me of Caravan. So I'm like, I like that. You're saying that this is like its own, there's so many missions of it.
Yeah, there is.
Is it skippable? And not that I would skip it, but like if you skip it, would that in itself affect the storyline also?
It won't affect the main storyline, but what it will do is it will affect if you ever do the tournament, because you won't have all these like stronger cards.
Okay.
So then you're going out, because when you go to the tournament, you go up against, I believe, it should be about 3 or 4 different people, and they're all high classed.
So you have a tournament that you're gonna play that's unavoidable, but
Yeah.
playing these side quests are basically gonna put you in a place that not only are you gonna know how the game works, but you're gonna have really good cards.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're gonna want to win.
I mean, yeah,
That's-
you just
that's
told me
all
about
I
a
was
murder mystery. I'm
Yeah.
like, if that's the precursor, I don't want to know what the end of this is.
You're gonna want to push all the way through. So it's really good. I like how they played along with it and added that piece in. But to kind of tie in like why I love the card game so much is you had it where even though you were attacking potentially, you're really trying to see how you can tally up your points with your different cards. So you have like a few, I showed you like the decoy card. You can kind of throw that down and take one of your cards back. All of a sudden your points go down, right? It's like, why would he do that? What, is he trying to lose? Yes, I am trying to lose this round. This round where you put down all your powerful cards. I would love to lose this round. I want to take back every single card that I possibly can so I can beat you on the next round. And I think that's where the fun came into it. There's 4 different types I was mentioning earlier, and they all have their own different kickoff that they kind of have. Like the monsters kind of multiply, and some of them have it where if there's like a gang of wolves, they'll all get like +3, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you have something that was first just 9 points, now it's swinging for 18, or it's you're getting these higher 27. It's like, oh man, at this point, if I put down all my cards, I will still lose this round. I need to just give him this round. There's no reason for me to fight for it. So it's almost like a math game a little bit.
Yeah, you're playing a little chess. You're playing a little chess amongst the cards.
So I definitely enjoyed playing Gwent to the point where I've even considered as well looking at Etsy and actually buying, because someone actually made the full like card deck. And I've actually thought about it.
I would suggest it. I think that Queen's Blood, you're talking about Gwent.
Yeah.
That's from The Witcher. Queen's Blood was a game from Final Fantasy that my wife was obsessed with.
Right, yeah.
And very similar to what you just described, but a little different. 3 lanes.
Mm-hmm.
You are collecting points in those lanes, but this is more, you're trying to take up the whole board to have as many points as you can have cumulatively in each lane.
Yeah.
And then to your point, you may give up 1 lane, but the 2 lanes or the 1 lane that you win may have more points. So it's very similar to chess with Mancala. Like that's where I'd say it's like, if you've ever played Mancala and there's the tokens on the sides where once you jump over them, you can keep them, right? Mm-hmm. Very similar to that. But you have to have strategy, because you can only put out cards that are the strength of the pawns that you have down. So you have to stack pawns 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, to be able to put down stronger monsters to have more points to be able to take that lane.
Gotcha.
I cannot speak to it personally because I did not play it, but I will tell you my wife is obsessed. And to your point of like The Witcher, you don't have to play it, but it helps. You didn't have to play these missions, but these are the one mission that she will seek out and play first every time. So that's how I know she likes it.
That's good.
I really think Queen's Blood, Gwent, they fall in that category of a game inside of a game, but it's good enough that it could be its own game where people really will run with it and would play it in real life, or make a third party, separate game itself completely where you can just play that.
And I think that that's a really nice, like, kudos to the developers, because you're making your own card game from scratch. And I think with the card games that are already out, there's so many methods that have already been done for you to make a method and for it to feel successful. It's pretty hard to do. Yeah. I would think so. It's pretty hard to do. And they, to kind of a small little note on Gwent, they actually made its own separate game. And I know that we saw that earlier. It looked slightly different, but it had a lot of more animations and stuff like that. But it was that successful where they were like, you know what? We need to make this as a standalone. So
I agree with that wholly. And I kind of put it in the category with like Lord of the Rings creating its own language.
Yeah.
Or, Klingon being created as its own language.
Exactly.
So, I think it's really unique when inside of something, inside of a game, inside of a book, inside of a TV show, inside of whatever, something tangible for us to actually, play in real life comes from it. So
it's just born from it.
Super
it's
cool.
Absolutely
super cool. Have you ever played Fallout New Vegas?
New Vegas? No, I haven't. Only played 4.
So there was a card game in New Vegas called Caravan, and it kind of worked the same way, 3 lanes, but this one was you just needed to win 2 of the lanes.
Okay.
So you'd have 3 hands. You need to get 26 points in your lane. So like a 10, a 9, and a 7, that would win you that lane. And that's how the game worked. It was really simple. It was something that I enjoyed in the game. But again, this was not something like Queen's Blood or Gwent where you had a super variety of cards. These were the regular standard cards that you'd get from a playing card deck, and that's what you played with. So I would say, whenever we look at card games, there's lots of games specifically that were made for just playing cards. Right. There are a handful of games that were card games built into other video games. Red Dead had card playing.
Yeah.
Gwent comes from The Witcher. Queen's Blood's from Final Fantasy. Caravan's from Fallout. I will say there are still traditional card games that are popular.
Yeah, that's true.
People play poker. People play Texas Hold'em. People play blackjack.
Love blackjack.
We came to talk about digital games, right? We're talking about digital trading card games and digital card games. I wanted to end on potentially the most popular current day traditional card game with a twist.
I'm gonna have you say it. I know I want to say it, but I want you to say it.
Balatro. It's Balatro.
Tell me about Balatro.
So, Balatro, you pick from a standard deck of cards. You have, your diamonds, your hearts, your clubs, your spades.
Okay.
You will pick those cards and you will play poker hands. So you could have 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, full house, straight, royal flush, right? That is how you play. And as you play those hands, you get tokens or points. The catch that makes this game so addicting is, first thing, there's no animations. You are just playing through card after, hand after hand after hand after hand.
Right.
But the objective is to get X amount of tokens. So in a hand, they want you to get 3,000 points. I want you to get 3,000 tokens, and maybe a straight gives you 1,000. As you play, you'll get joker cards that give you passives. So you can literally have passives built onto your hands.
Okay.
So you know what? A straight is 4, but none of the colors matter. So I could have a 4 of spades, a 5 of hearts, a 6 of diamonds, you get me? And that will register and give me the points. But then I could get another joker on top of it that's, not only do the colors not matter, you could be missing 1 card. So I can have an ace, a king, a queen, all different suits, no jack, and a 10, and a 9, and it's going to give me a 9 through an ace straight that's all the same color because of these jokers, right?
Yeah, it's going to complete the set. I like that.
That's that element that keeps you coming back. Then you can get planetary cards, or you can get tarot cards, and these cards add to just that hand. That's not a passive over time. That's just like, hey, this hand, you can have this passive, or these cards go away, or each card in here gives you X amount of points, or your multiplier goes up by 10. So as you not only get addicted to the game and you level up your hands and you level up the points you get from it, there's a variety in the sense of I can get new tarot cards. So if I hit that one boss that my deck's not really built for, get that one hand that's just really, really crushing me, I can go get a tarot card, and maybe that gives me the little multiplier I need.
Yeah. And I can tell you just from like seeing it, I can see the appeal, because they're like, I've played poker to a certain extent, and not having that last card that you need, it gets under your skin. You're like, man, I almost had it. And I think that kind of fills it. That's what it gave me the first time I saw it. And I thought that was very interesting. I would definitely want to try it out.
I mean, the thing for me is I don't like to play against other people a lot of times when I'm starting to learn a game, because their skill and knowledge deters me, because they're going to dunk on me. You're just playing Balatro against yourself on Steam.
Yeah.
It's like a slot. It's like a slot game. You are playing against yourself, and it's like the only person I have to blame is me. Let me rebuild this deck. And you don't really spend the time being upset about losing, and you spend more time just running at it. Let me figure it out. Let me see if I can get a better hand. Let me see if I can upgrade this. And that's the elements of a good game. You know, when you look at all these trading card games or these card games we talk about, there has to be something that brings you in.
Yeah.
Pokemon, maybe it's the character. Maybe you've played with them somewhere else. Maybe you've seen them on TV, or you bought the physical card. Yu-Gi-Oh, same thing. Magic the Gathering, I think it's kind of opposite. It's like, I really enjoyed this world, and I enjoy this game. This is the tool to allow me to play it to the full extent. So I think that fit a different medium. You know, as you go down, you look at Hearthstone, or you look at these bigger games that have, lore behind them. I think those are more, you're in love with the IP. I'm playing Marvel Snap because I love Deadpool. Right. I'm playing Marvel Snap because I love the Wasp. You know, whoever. Yeah. I try to pick someone out there, but it's like, I understand that. Balatro is not that game. It is a traditional card game that has card mechanics that are going to get you addicted. They're going to get you addicted because it's challenging. It has enough layers that it keeps it interesting. You're not going to get bored. And the reality is, card games have been around forever for a reason. They're simple. Keep it simple.
And they get you to the point. They're fun. They're simple. They don't need to be too complex. And I think that's definitely the heart of them, which I love.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I think I've showed all my cards. Do you have anything, Clifford?
There's just one more that I definitely want to mention. One more and one mention.
Okay, so, tell me.
Such a simple game. Go Fish.
Ooh.
And you would think that it's something of it should be more, but it's one of those games that you just pass the time. You can play with anybody, sit back and relax, and it's really just a passing the time type of game, which is really cool. And then, of course, Uno, it definitely needs to be mentioned.
That has broken up friendships, families.
Yes, it has. You know that one person that dropped one too many +4s on you.
I am the person that stopped playing. I will not play with my wife. She is a savage.
Oh, she?
Yeah. You can talk about it after the podcast. You can ask her yourself.
Yeah,
I refuse to play with the family. When the Uno comes out, I'm like, I think I'm going to go eat some food.
It's like, no thank you. Not doing it. Well, I will say, Uno is definitely a really fun game. It can be aggressive, just like how you're mentioning. And I think the part that I've liked is that they've taken a regular game and they've put on their own like additions to it. So for example, like my favorite is like Uno Flip. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to kind of give for anyone that hasn't seen it before, Uno Flip has it where on the opposite side, instead of it just being a blank card, it's a whole other set of cards. Think of it almost like a daytime, nighttime type of look to it. So it's like almost orange, purplish like colors on the back. But it's just like your regular cards. But now you have it where in the deck, you can make it where everyone's forced to flip their cards. Now this becomes a lot of fun because while you're playing, everyone has to show one set of their side of their cards. So you have to a point. Like, you're sitting here holding your deck, and it's like, well, you're seeing all my other cards. You don't see the ones I have now. Oh, I'm gonna make you flip your whole deck. Now I get to see the ones that you have on this side. So you can kind of do a lot of strategic planning and stuff like that. It makes it a lot of fun. You want to sit back and kind of hide your cards a little bit. So you'll see people like kind of fencing off their cards a little bit more. So I thought that was really cool. But Uno is definitely a legendary one. It has definitely made people change the way they view things.
It stands the test of time, though. It really is like the classic card game that, like, wherever you're from, South America, North America, you're from Europe, like, I meet people from all over and they know what Uno is. So I'm like, hey, it stands the test of time.
It does. It's definitely a staple of a classic.
Well, I would say, I think today for the card podcast, we gave you a lot to talk about. We gave you Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Marvel, Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, Gwent from inside The Witcher, Queen's Blood from inside of Final Fantasy, Caravan inside of Fallout, Balatro, the standout by itself. If I'm going to give you some homework, there's some older games called Artifact and Eternal. Those were card games that had their time too. Maybe they still have a following, maybe they don't. I'll do my homework too. But I think for this podcast, that's all I've got. Clifford?
That's it. We have one cliff note. We will find out for the first set of like Pokemon, how many were in the first like set.
Oh, we'll find out.
So I'll find out for you guys.
But until next time, this is Matt.
And you got Cliff.
And we're signing out.
Peace.